I call to order the Adrian City Commission meeting for March 17th, 2025. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I get a motion and a second to assign Vince Emmerich as the temporary city clerk for this evening's meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Banky with a second from Commissioner Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so thank you. Acting Administrator Vince Emmerich for also being our clerk for the evening. So now it's your turn. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Banky,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Schwartz, Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry, Commissioner Gauss.
Present.
All commissioners present with the exception of Commissioner Schwartz and Commissioner Castleberry.
May I get a motion to excuse Commissioner Castleberry and Commissioner Schwartz?
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Miller. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry, excuse me, Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to, we have a proclamation. It's our Arbor Day proclamation, so I'm just going to read that. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil caused by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Adrian has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 46 years. Now, therefore, I, Angela Sword Heath, Mayor of the City of Adrian, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Adrian and urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to endorse our city's community forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. And the reason we do, we've been asked this before, the reason that we read this proclamation now is it needs to be read in a public meeting and then mailed in to the Arbor Foundation so that we are considered that we are recognized as a Tree City USA. It needs to be there before that date. So we always do it at our last meeting in March. So that is why we read that ahead of time, even though I told you that Arbor Day is not until April 25th.
Madam Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yes.
Also want to point out, because there is a deadline on this of March 21st, the Lenawee Conservation District tree sale is taking place until March 21st. If you go, just Google Lenawee Conservation District Square, there's a number of tree offerings at very reasonable prices. You can order up until the 21st, and you can pick them up on Friday, the 11th at the fairgrounds. There's some pretty good deals on a wide assortment of trees and bushes as well.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment regarding items on the agenda. Just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your name and place of residence. We will begin inside the city chambers first, and then we will open it up to the Zoom participants after we have exhausted all comment within the city chambers. And also, just as a reminder, this is a public comment time. It is not a dialogue time, so the commissioners and myself will not respond back to you. It is a time for you to speak to us and us to listen. But this is for items on the agenda. We will begin inside the city chambers at this time.
Hi, Jarek Tim, Adrian resident. I have concerns about the proposed development plan for the Bixby lot. In planning commission meetings, the developer has stated that this project will provide missing middle housing, which Adrian desperately needs. However, the proposed plan only includes single-family homes, which do not qualify as missing middle housing. Missing middle housing is clearly defined on page 122 of our city's current comprehensive plan. Missing middle housing refers to a range of housing types such as duplexes, triplexes, courtyard apartments, cottage courts, townhouses, and low-rise multiplexes. This development also fails to align with our comprehensive and land use plans, which designate this area for multi-family residential zoning. Instead, the development effectively extends the R1 zoning that already dominates our city, limiting housing diversity and affordability. Furthermore, the project doesn't meet criteria for a planned unit development, which is what they're trying to have it rezoned as. A PUD should offer a variety of housing types, efficient land use, accessory commercial units, and alignment with city objectives. This plan falls short on all counts. Ironically, many surrounding neighborhoods already better fulfill these requirements. For example, the neighborhood just 1 block south of the development, around Northwestern Drive, has a similar housing density to this project, while also providing missing middle housing, and has done so since the 1940s. These neighborhoods demonstrate that mixed housing types and uses are not only possible, but already exist in our community. Another major concern is traffic. While some argue that the hospital's closure reduces traffic concerns, Riverside Avenue remains a high-traffic corridor with speeding vehicles. As a resident living near Riverside, I can attest to the lack of safety measures leading to high-speed traffic. There are only 2 crosswalks, which are nearly a mile apart, with one of those crosswalks at the crest of the hill at Budlong, which presents numerous safety concerns, and there are no stop signs to slow traffic for the entire length of the road from Bent Oak to Wolf Creek Highway. Additionally, there's no sidewalk on the north side of the street across from the high school, and nothing has been done to improve walkability and bikeability of the area. If this development moves forward and with no plans to address these issues from the city, conditions will only worsen. I strongly urge the city to delay rezoning until the developer's plan aligns with our comprehensive plan and meets the requirements for a PUD. This project as it stands does not address Adrian's need for diverse housing or improve the quality of life for residents. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Julie Youngworth, Adrian, and I agree with the previous person that was up here speaking. I came to the zoning meeting last week, I think it was, and I think there still needs to be more information. I think there still needs to be more transparency given to not only the immediate neighborhood, but the whole city of Adrian in the way it seems to me, and I could be wrong. I think I'm speaking before the work study session number 2, which I probably could learn more. But what I'm saying right now is that I think that more needs to be given, more information needs to be given to the residents, to the city, and to protect the interests of the residents is what I think the vision of the city is. I think there was a sheet here. But I hope that more information will be given. And I don't want to keep repeating myself, but please consider not changing the zoning. Right now, I believe it's blended, which includes offices, and I'm not quite sure. I need to learn more about this myself. So that's why I'm hoping that you'll give more time. But one thing that I envisioned was that perhaps if we left it zoned the way it is, we could attract more medical services, more medical offices, doctors. I think Adrian really is lacking in that. So keep it the way it is, work with the neighborhoods, work with the residents, and thank you.
Hello, I'm Ernest, Adrian resident. And first of all, I want to say great job. It's recording, right? Okay, cool. Anyway, I want to say great job to the first responders and Mayor Heath and Chief Emmerich for supporting the first responders that night, and also the first responders that have to deal with the whole night. And also I would like to say I read on Nosy, whatever it's called, about the mall, Adrian Mall. Y'all shouldn't give the owner of the mall until June. That's been there sitting there unoccupied for however long. It needs to be demolished within a month or two, so it can become something else that's not, that's beneficiary to the residents of Adrian. Because it's unfortunate that it's taking up too much space without being occupied. So that being said, y'all need to also call it a deadline, not June. It needs to be within a month or two. And yeah.
Good evening. My name is Dorothy. Like in school, Mitt like in baseball. I'm a retired teacher. I live at the corner of Butler and Elm Street, and I have for 16 years. The light that comes from the city comes from the night lights. Okay, it does not come from the sky. And
Dorothy, it
I'm
needs to
getting
be, it needs
black-
to be things that are on the agenda. We'll have regular public comment at the end, though, if you would like to speak about that then.
Okay, I will finish at that time.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
At this time, we will open it up to the Zoom participants for public comment regarding items on the agenda. Hearing no public comment, we are going to move on to our work study session. We obviously have extenuating circumstances that happened and unfortunate circumstances that happened over the weekend. And we are going to have an extra thing that is added to our work study session because of this situation that happened over the weekend. So Chief Massengill and Jay Marks are both going to be speaking to the fire and the relief fund at this time.
Good evening. You all know about the fire we had on Saturday night. Devastating fire. Luckily, it doesn't happen very often, but devastating nonetheless. Did a little research and when the Smith Cyclery fire happened in 2000, there's only 4 firefighters that we know of that were on both fires. So a lot of firefighters that have never experienced that type or magnitude of fire before. It's the 4th fire I've been on of that magnitude in my career. So it was definitely something that we trained for, but it was a challenge nonetheless. So tonight I was asked just to kind of talk about the circumstances and what was accomplished. And I can tell you that it could have been much worse, as devastating as it is. And we'll kind of go over that and how it could have been much worse. We could have lost a majority of that block. So that's what I'm here tonight. Answer some questions if anybody has any questions that I don't answer. But initially the call came in just before 6 p.m. on Saturday evening, and we were dispatched. Our automatic aid departments were dispatched, and that's why we have that in place. No fire department alone in this area can handle that type of a fire by themselves. So we dispatched those other departments to make sure that that we have at least a decent amount of firefighters that are responding. So when we got there, there was fire at the back of the building of the WLEN, their old building, that was seen at the roof line, and immediately our officer in charge called for, actually he skipped calling just for a second alarm. He called for a third alarm right away. He's one of them, Captain Springer. He was on the Smith Cyclery fire also and knew what that turned into, and wanted to try and get ahead of it if we could, knowing that it takes a while to get other fire departments in. So that was right about 6 p.m. The questions were asked if, you know, I know a lot of social media accounts, and we were called to that address twice earlier in the day for wires arcing. And we did call Consumers Energy at that time. And when we left the scene, those times there was no arcing at the building. Like a lot of times we get called for arcing wires, and when the wind blows, they may arc, but when we get there, they may not be touching whatever they were arcing off of. So we did call Consumers. They did come out and look at it. I don't know what happened with that. There's also, of course, the storms and the lightning in the area. We don't have a determination of a cause. We may never, especially that magnitude of fire. Usually we can almost always determine where a fire started. We can't always determine what caused the fire through the investigation. It does happen, but just wanted you to know that there will be an investigation. There is an investigation, but it's nothing that I have to report tonight of what happened and why the fire started. So one thing we did have, and it was very fortunate, is we do have, for the first time in the county, we used the county has a drone that has thermal imaging capabilities. And Matt's going to put that up on the screen and play the video we have of that. To me, that was a game changer, technology we have never had before. And it's the reason why the buildings, actually, we were able to stop it where we did, is because of that technology. Matt, you may have to log out and log back in, but you don't have my password, do you? Oh, wait, there you go. You might be able to do it from there. So that technology allowed us to see from above what actually was happening, and we could see inside the building where the fire was progressing and get ahead of it. Under normal circumstances, without that technology, there was 2 ways for us to figure out where the fire was going. Is we could either just start cutting holes until we found it, or we had to basically wait for the fire to burn through and show itself. Those are the ways. It's going to push smoke everywhere, which it did. But this is about 2 hours into the fire. It's a couple hours into the fire. And as you can see, it allows us to see actually where the most heat is, where the different heat signatures are going. So this, we number the buildings when we're there, so everybody is on common terminology. The end building we labeled as 1, and then heading to the east, 2, 3, and 4. As you can see here, building 1, the roof's burning. Building 2, it's burning under the roof at the front of the building, but that has a metal roof on it, which holds a lot of the heat in, which also causes us trouble because our hose streams don't penetrate the metal roof. So we can't, that causes challenges also. But basically the fire burnt through the attic space of both of those buildings. And that's where we were. We had, for many hours, we had 5 aerial ladders from around the county, one of them being ours, operating. And each one of those flow between 1,000 and 2,000 gallons per minute. So multiply by that times 5, and that is a lot of water that was needed and used to put the fire out. So you can see on the left side, building 3, you can see the firefighters actually on that roof operating. If you want to jump ahead, Matt, to the next one. So this here, so where we just zoomed in on, if you can see that heat signature at the front of that building, it's starting to go now into building 3. The fire hasn't reached there yet, but the heat is starting to go there. So that's what we have to keep an eye on is, and like I said, this is technology that we've never used. Nobody's used in the county before, in Lenawee County before. It's a county drone. It's a county drone team. And that's, like I said, it's a game changer that we can actually see the fire progressing from the heat. You can go ahead.
Can
Go
we
to the next
ask,
one. Yep.
can we ask questions
Absolutely.
in between, or do you want us to wait till the
No,
end?
whenever.
So-
Start meeting.
Like, are you, who is seeing this when the drone was happening? Is there a command station? Who saw this video and
Yeah,
when?
so we were, so I was in command at this point. I was in command, we have a command post. And that's where, so the drone team flew from the command post, and on their controller, they can see this exact thing. But then we also have an iPad that's larger that it transmits to, and in real time, I can see all of this going on.
That's amazing.
Yep, and at different points during the fire, I would bring in the command officers who were operating and say, okay, this is what we have. This is what we're doing. What's our next step? And like I said, I mean, being able to see the firefighters on the roof, being able to see the firefighters actually operating is amazing that we were able to do that. It was to the point, if you go to the next one, Matt.
Did you have any issue with people's personal drones getting in the way? Because I know there's people that had drones up.
Right.
That's why I'm asking.
And we didn't. And anytime we have a drone up, we have a spotter. So we have to have a spotter who, as the person's looking and flying, looking at the controller, they can't tell what other, so the spotter has to watch for other drones. Normally, especially in this situation, people are fairly courteous about that because the drones can shoot pictures so far away. We did not, that I know of. But even, in this area, you can see the heat starting to gather, and we were underneath it pulling ceiling, but there were 10, 12 foot high ceilings. So we're operating underneath it also, but it's the technology. I was able to talk to the firefighters on the roof and see them and say, you need to go 10 feet forward and 5 feet to your left. That's where you need to cut the hole. And they cut the hole, they let the heat and the smoke out, and they were able to, and then get to it from underneath. They knew where they cut the hole and able to put the fire out where it was spreading and continue to go forward. So go ahead, Matt, go on the next one. Which one are we on? Okay. So this is where I was actually directing that firefighter that's toward the front. I believe this is where I was directing him and said, okay, go 10 feet ahead. Now go 10 feet to your left. That's where you need to cut the hole. Because we could see the fire progressing there. And if you go look at it now, it's charred, like there was fire there. So you can go to the next one. That's, you can see, I think you might zoom in, you might not, but they're actually cutting the hole then. That shows, and if you can see the heat signature going to building 4 disappears. Like to the left of where they're actually cutting that hole. Because now the heat and the fire is going out as opposed to continuing through that building. So you can go to the next one, Matt. So the front of building 3, which would be the first part of Diamond Gems, that's where we call it a trench cut. So basically they cut all the way across that joist space, letting the heat and gases out because that's where it was running over to the next building. And they were able to put that out both from the top side and from the bottom. Also in the center of the building, on that same building, I don't know if you can see, but right there, yeah, right about where Matt is, it was also crossing over there and we could see it crossing into the building there and running a joist space. So they're cutting a hole there also, doing the exact same thing, and it's charred right there where it was running that joist space. So one more, Matt. Next one. I think that's kind of just the end. And mind you, the winds at times were gusting 35, 40, 45 miles an hour. And it's amazing that this drone is made to handle that because it will bounce it around quite a bit. But that 100% was one of the issues we dealt with was the winds. The winds push the fire. And that's what they do, just like fanning a campfire. It's going to push the fire. It pushed the fire through the building. And the best we could do was stop it at fire breaks, the best we could. So that kind of gives you a side-by-side, and you can see the fire. And another thing with the drone, if you see on the left where there's that vertical streak, that was actually an old chimney chase. And before we wouldn't be able to see that, but with a thermal we could, and we weren't sure why the fire was going down or if it started there and came up. So we were able to go investigate that and make sure that the fire hadn't dropped down that chimney chase, because it would have and could have. So just interesting technology and how we use that. And like I said, I 100% believe that the drone assisted us and assisted the firefighters in limiting the damage. Diamond Gems only has basically holes cut in the roof where we cut them, and then a little bit of charring where the fire was heading. The other 2 buildings, as you can see, are the roofs are gone. The one metal roof, the metal is in place, but there's no structure underneath it. That building 2, and we can go ahead and move to the pictures and kind of give you an idea of what it looks like, because the big question is are the buildings coming down? Are they not? Or are they going to fall down? This is the outside. I assume most of you have seen the outside by now. You can go ahead, Matt. The building itself, to me, not being a structural engineer, this is just my best guesstimate, but go ahead, Matt. Front of the building, or front of the buildings. Next one. Then this gives you the overhead view of what's actually still standing. Like I said, the building 1, the roof burnt completely off because it had your standard rubber roof on it. The next one, there's no structure underneath it. It's just the metal in place still. And and then next one. Actually, Matt, if you can go back. Not that far. One more. There you go. You can see the trench cuts at the front of the building, and then along the building between building 2 and building 3. So that's the only that I saw the only damage in those buildings. So smoke and water, yes, absolutely. But that's that's easier than the structure burning. So go ahead, Matt. So that's the inside. That's building 2. You can see the metal roof still in place. No support underneath it, underneath it, but It is still in place. If you go to the next one. This is one of the apartments in building 1. So that's the end building. And like I said, all it really did was burn the roof off. The contents, of course, the roof as it was burning fell down. So there's, a lot of debris and a lot of burnt material that fell down. But this is looking at the second floor, and these apartments were loft apartments. So each apartment was on the first floor and then had like a bedroom on a loft that a spiral stairway went up to. So go ahead to the next one. That's just a hallway underneath building 2. Go ahead. And then this is back to building 1. So as you can see, the ceiling members of that building are mostly all intact. It burnt the roof off, yes, but that attic space was, anywhere from 5 feet in an angle down for the roof or the water to run off. So it got smaller and smaller. But for the most part, all of the fire was up above. I took this picture because you can see the brick at the top. I'm assuming those would have to be repaired. I'm assuming some of it will have to be repaired just because of the heat. But to me, structurally, everything from the ceiling up may need some work. Everything from the ceiling down, I'm thinking is in pretty good shape. We didn't see one of the fire chiefs that was on scene actually was operating the aerial ladder on the end of the building. He demolished his building for a living and was watching that wall to make sure there was no movement or bowing or that sort of thing. And the whole night he watched it and nothing. So we're hopeful that it's repairable. Go ahead, Matt. Like I said, these are just going to be some of the interior pictures. I was asked this morning, how did it not burn all of those, all the structural members? And to me, a lot of that is due to the building codes. This had to have been remodeled at some point. Those aren't original 2x4s by any means. And the building codes are built to where it's insulated and it's fire stopped and it's designed not to, at least for quite a while, to spread the fire. So, the building code, the fire code, all of that is designed for this. Go ahead, Matt. Just some more pictures of what's actually left. This is actually the apartment in building 1 towards the rear that was unoccupied at the time. So just more pictures of what we found and what we're able to save. Anything that was in the apartments in some sort of a container, yeah, they're going to have smoke, but a lot of it should hopefully be at least savable for the residents. I do believe there was 7 residents. Is that right, Jay? 7 residents, 4 businesses. Everybody got out, no injuries. Some of them weren't home. The couple that were home were able to get out safely. No firefighter injuries that required transport to the hospital. Anytime something like this, there's always sprains, strains, and that sort of thing. But we were very fortunate. Had a lot of firefighters from all over the county that worked their tails off to save those buildings. I really hope they save the buildings. I hope they're able to be repaired. So that is.
Chief, do you have an estimate of how many total firefighters were on scene?
So there was 10 fire departments, anywhere from 3 firefighters per department to a dozen. So I'm going to say 75 to 90-ish. I haven't gotten that far in trying to figure out, what actual apparatus and personnel and that sort of thing. But just like any fire, we call back automatically. Our off-duty, they get called automatically. Mutual aid gets called automatically, and then we can increase the response as needed. So we ended up at a 4th alarm that was, like I said, I'm going to guess probably about 80 to 90 firefighters would be a good guess right now.
Would you say the design of, I don't know if it's building 4 or building 5, because it's a lower elevation and didn't have the apartment in the back, did that also help stop the spread with things?
So It would have if it would have gotten that far. Oops. Because the fire was up, if it was a lower fire, you know, and say the first or second floor, it would have continued to travel. But especially seeing the drone video, I think we stopped it where we did, as opposed to, I'll be completely honest with you, I wasn't confident that we were going to stop it from burning the roof off building 3 and 4. That
Did they all have like a shared attic space? Is that why, or did it jump through the brick walls?
No,
of the building?
yeah. So basically over the years, either something, you know, some sort of chase for different things was cut in there, or sometimes buildings that old, just the mortar, right, is weakened or not as well as it was when it was new. So though, you know, it can jump during that, just radiant heat on a fire that much can, you know, depending on how thick the wall is there. So there's a lot of different reasons that it could have.
So do you see, obviously at some point way in the future, as your investigation wraps up, potential changes to inspection process or rental inspections or building inspections, or just because you say this is a massive magnitude of fire that we're not used to seeing, that the fire acted as it should have within proper codes and you guys were able to respond accordingly?
So it's tough to tell at this point. Like we're very early on. But I can tell you that with those buildings being as old as they are, like we can't force somebody to bring stuff up to current code. It has to be maintained at what it was built to. So some of the design in that is probably from the 1800s. Some of the design and some of the remodeled apartments, we could see that some of the stuff didn't burn. Like I said, I'm crediting towards the fire being above it and it being protected probably by insulation and maybe some other things that we don't know that burned and fell. So I can't say right now that. What I can say is we need to continue to enforce the codes we have, because every code book, there's a section written in there because of something they learned from a fire or something they learned from, you know, it's not just somebody designs those codes because they think it's a good idea. Like there's a reason and something happened, which is why they're there. So, I mean, I think for sure right now, we just continue what we're doing and continue to enforce the codes the way they're written and go from there. And we're definitely on a fire department level. We do an after action report. We do an after action where we sit down and talk about what went good, what we can do better, because there's always things we can do better on anything we do. And I assume as the city will do the same thing, is once they figure out, if they can figure out a cause, okay, is there anything we can do inspection wise or you know, anyway. So yet to be determined, I would say.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Chief, given the age of the buildings, I'm going to assume none of the buildings had fire suppression systems. With a renovation of the apartments, will that be a code requirement in the future for those buildings?
Most likely. I'm going to say most likely. Some of the Strongback building has fire suppression. Because it did require it. Now the codes are interesting because there are sometimes ways to not have to do that. And it's trade-offs basically. If they don't suppress it, then they're going to have to do these 4 things to make it just as safe as if it was suppressed. So I can't say yes, 100% they'll be suppressed, but I'm going to say when they're rebuilt, they will be safer than they were. Just a guess, when they were remodeled in the 70s or 80s or whenever they were, because the codes have improved.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else?
Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
thank
Very
you
good.
for risking your lives and please thank all the other communities for us. I was trying to get around and thank them and they were all like, this is what we do. We're supposed to be here. This is what we do.
Right.
We stop thanking us. But, you know, it was just great to see that so many in the community come out and support each other and really try to stop a fire that's not in their own city. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, that's what we do. We help them, they help us. And Absolutely. Our firefighters from throughout the county, it was I say a tremendously tiring night, which turned into the next day. And that was one thing also I wanted to bring up is, I've heard a lot of it rekindled the next day. It didn't actually rekindle. It was, we started breaking some of the mutual aid departments loose about 1 a.m. All of our trucks left about 3 a.m. except one. We left our ladder there. So every 20 minutes or a half hour, we had staff there that would go through the building, make sure it didn't rekindle. We knew we had a couple hot spots, one of them being on the top of building 1, where there was some flashing, but we decided it wasn't going to go anywhere. So we'd wait till daylight where it's safer to do any operation, because it wasn't going to affect any of the building. So that's why people said, well, it rekindled. No, we had never left. We were waiting for it to be a little safer and go from there. So we left 11 a.m. I think we completely left the scene. So, all right.
Thank you.
Yep.
And now Jay is going to talk about the relief fund.
Before I do that, I just want to say thank you to the chief. The professionalism and the skill that they showed during that operation is just amazing. Just to see all of those different departments working together was truly a great thing, and it saved our downtown. In light of that, the DDA has been communicating with building owners, business owners, and tenants of those buildings, and felt that it was important that we take the lead in this. And so the DDA board is moving forward with a $5,000 commitment to the relief effort, and then partnering with the Lenawee County Community Foundation, matching dollar for dollar for the next $10,000, and that'll go to the tenants and the business owners in those buildings. So you can go to the Lenawee County Community Foundation, click donate now, and look for West Maumee Fire Relief Fund and make your donations there.
Thank you. And you might as well stay up here because you're the next item on the work study session.
Just a question related to that fund. So who's going to manage the distribution of those funds? And the only reason I raised the concern is there were still $20,000 sitting in the Riverview Terrace distribution account. Last time I checked with the previous city administrator. So want to make sure that those funds are not sitting there 3 years later, that they're dispersed quickly.
So we were aware of that, and I think there were some stipulations on the Riverview Terrace account that make it a little tricky. We have myself and Jacob Cooper, who's the treasurer for the DDA. The two of the signing authorities. Vince will be the third signing authority on that account, but we will distribute those funds directly through to everybody that's there. So there's not a threshold or a specific task that has to take place. It's strictly, we're doing this to distribute those funds to those people.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our work study session. Number 1, grant assistance services. And I know you have,
I have Connor here.
yes,
He'll
you
introduce
have
himself
Connor
and then
joining
the
you as
company
well.
he works for.
So
I'll hand him out. You go ahead and talk.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for letting me to come up and speak a little bit about who GCSI is and kind of the partnership that we have kind of created down here with Lenawee Now, the city of Adrian, and some of the families down here as well. GCSI is a multi-client lobbying firm, has been around for over 40 plus years, is the state's first bipartisan multi-client lobbying firm. I've been with them for over 3.5 years. Before that, I worked in the state legislature and the state senate for 3 separate Senate majority leaders. And kind of give you a little history on how this kind of started was back in 2021. Lenawee Now and a few families decided to come to walk down the court with us to try to make Adrian special. There's a lot of folks here who have big ideas in trying to make the community great. But when you have over 1,700 communities in the state, how can you make your voice be heard? And that is how we help you guys. So we were able to secure $3.5 million to start the tunnel project on the Kiwanis Trail. And then we kept on riding that momentum, and we had a bigger idea, the riverfront. How can we redevelop the riverfront? So we were able to secure $15 million, $3 million for Park House, of that $12 million to kind of get that going. And so as we continue to go down this court, it's, as I wanted to kind of let everyone know, is we're here to try to make your voice be heard in Lansing, because, you have your local legislators and we work with them, but we also are working with the decision makers. And kind of the proof is in the pudding. And let's be honest, there's a lot of other municipalities around the state that wish they could be as have the big ideas like you folks have, but also be able to secure the funds that we've been able to secure. And we look forward to continuing making this happen. But more than anything, I wanted to answer any questions that anyone has as we continue to move down the court.
What do you see as the next funding cycle with the current budget process that's just starting to kick off?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be kind of moving down the field with the riverfront, but specific to blight removal, site readiness, and housing. Obviously, housing's always been a big word that is in Lansing. That we have a housing crisis. There's not enough housing, from affordable housing to missing middle to market rate. And so what we're going to do is be able to try to secure $5 million this year to be able to help with that riverfront process, but in that specific parameters.
And I guess my question was more not necessarily the project here, but from what you're seeing from Lansing, earmarks, are they flowing as they have been, or are they starting to rein those in a little bit?
They're reining them in quite a bit now. With the new Speaker of the House, with the Republicans taking over from November, they've put some parameters in place to make sure that these dollars are spent, that they're going for what they're supposed to be. Obviously, we probably have seen articles that there's been certain folks who've created nonprofits after the budget has been signed, and they're buying coffee makers and trips to Dubai. And that's why we believe, what we have here is, a well-known and respected nonprofit in Lenawee now, as well as the city of Adrian, as well known and everyone knows, and you guys are good stewards of your dollars. And so they've kind of put a process in place, and we've been working with Representative Jenkins, as well as the Speaker of the House, Matt Hall, to try to figure out what is the best avenue for this to make sense. Because we're not asking for coffee makers. We're not asking for, trips to Dubai. We're just trying to help the citizens of Adrian here to be able to complete this vision that you guys have.
That's great, because Representative Jenkins will be joining us tomorrow at the Michigan Municipal League Lobby Day as well. Not tomorrow, but Wednesday morning. So that's good to hear. She's engaged already.
She is. Any other question? Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, we are going to have the Bixby site planned unit development. I do believe Scott is on. I saw Scott Gibson on there a minute ago. I don't know if I see him anymore. Oh,
I'm
yes.
here.
All right, there we go. And Matt, we're going to need to allow him to screen share for this as well.
He's set as a co-host, so he should be
Okay,
able to screen
thank
share.
you.
Stand by.
No, it's a presentation, Dorothy, right now. It's not public comment. It's a presentation
Okay,
right now.
just stay with the presentation. I can't hear you
Sorry,
on this
it's the
side of the room.
it's the Bixby site planned development on the old Bixby. Thank you.
I think she was stating she was having trouble hearing. So if we can make sure that we are speaking into our microphones or turning the volume up.
Bear with it.
You
Ooh,
can-
now we're really loud. Bear with us because we do have some people filling in positions they're not usually doing that are trying to do this. So thank you, Matt, for filling in tonight. But so patience, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Scott. Thank you.
Okay. And you can see the proposed PUD
Yes.
on my screen. Wonderful. So thank you, everyone, and for taking the time. Appreciate everybody's concern about this project. Obviously, just to kind of reiterate, kind of start from the beginning, my partner and I, Michael Collier, were brought into this to solve two unique challenges. One, to come up with a financial model and a budget that could support tearing down the hospital with the amount of money that was available. That the former Bixby Hospital was obviously a very unique and challenging project to tear down. I think quite a few people in the community over the summer were having questions as if it were going to happen. Obviously, the Bixby Hospital is mostly gone. And so we've almost come to the completion of the first part of the task that we were given. The second part was to come up with a unique housing solution that would address what we believe is a need within the Adrian market and the Lenawee County market in general. So what we were focusing on was putting together a housing product that we felt was a smaller size. We call it sized right. And so we split the difference between a garden rise multifamily density zoning, which is about 12 units per acre per year code, and a higher density single family residential, which approximates around 4 units per acre. This project is ultimately the former Bixby site that we were able to gain control of is just the hospital site, not the Grace Chrisman office building to the north. That's going to remain next to this project, as are all the other commercial and residential uses that are in that district over there. And so in order to complement that, we felt like we wanted to do something in the middle. And the something in the middle necessitated having a planned unit development because it did not conform to the existing code, right? So we came up with this 63 unit pocket community concept. We kept it single family. A lot of folks wanted us to have something that mirrors a single family product that's more conducive to some of the neighborhoods that are over there. And we've tried to keep the rental targets within what Fannie Mae defines as 80 or as missing middle housing, which is 80 to 120% of area median income. So I think in 2024, HUD defines area median income for Lenawee County at around 84,000 for a family of 4. So you can work backwards from that to do all the calcs, but ultimately it works out if you do the math and run it that way. Simply, it's around $50,000 to around folks that make individual folks that make around $50,000 to families of 4 that would make upwards of $100,000. We do not have any deed restrictions. We don't have any land use restriction agreements or anything of that kind. This is something that my business partner and I felt like was a critical need in the community and within this part of town. And so we self-define this as such, right? But we did base it upon what Fannie Mae defines missing middle housing as. This is not a LIHTC project. This is an affordable housing project. This is a market rate project. And if you look at what market rate, I think it'd be helpful if we define what market rate is in your community. Market rate per the U.S. Census for last year, or 2023 actually, forgive me, median rent for Adrian was $939. The median mortgage payment was $1,109. And the median housing value is $119. So as I've heard different concerns on both sides of the coin, there's concerns that we need affordable housing and this project doesn't support that. And Adrian does need affordable housing. This is not a 60% of area median income or lower project. There are other projects and other developers that do those types of projects. That's not what this is, and that's not what we're doing. And then there are other folks that are concerned that this is going to hurt their home values. And if you look at the home values, they're somewhere in about, really, I think that part of town's a little skewed higher than that. You're more in the 150 to 200 range. Our houses that we're proposing here, the smallest house, single family house, is around 1,276 square feet. The larger unit is 1,437 square feet. There was a housing study that Lenawee Now, which was mentioned earlier, that they commissioned that came out in December of 2023. That housing study said that new construction for single family throughout the county is approaching $275 a square foot. So in order for us to build these single family houses based on the Lenawee Now housing study that was done, our entry level house will cost $350,000 for us to construct, and the larger home would be $411,000, which is ultimately twice as much as the average home value or more than what currently is in that part of town. So we believe that if anything, this will help create sustainable comps for new construction in other parts of town. Furthermore, our entry point based on existing cost structures, new tariffs, all sorts of things, we're probably going to be somewhere around $1,200 for the entry level single family home and approaching $2,000 for the larger units. And again, if you look at median rent, this is almost twice that or exceeds twice what the U.S. Census tracked back in 2023. So if you look at the project in its entirety, it is a market rate project. It also conforms to Fannie Mae's definition of what missing middle housing is, which is 80 to 120% of Lenawee County's median income. And there's been other concerns as well because it is a higher density project, or mid density, if you will, somewhere between the single family zoning density, which is, max density is usually around 4 per acre. Like I said earlier, Garden Rise is 12. This project calcs out at about 8.15. So we're really splitting the difference between the two. And we think that this density for this site is completely appropriate and works really, really, really well. Because it is a more of a common design, as you can see there, as we mentioned in our last planning commission hearing, of course, agreed to, we will maintain the site. We will maintain all the landscaping, the green space, all of those things will be on the owner developer. And so it'll be our responsibility to keep the site looking beautiful and making it an asset for the community. We will also have, very strict, there's been some concerns about, rental properties and having, higher crime rates and whatnot, based on the way that we will manage it. We will do everything within our power to mitigate it. We will be using a local management company to manage these assets, as well as a local landscaping group to maintain and make sure that that this site is, again, an attractive asset for the community and not a liability. I think that's kind of the gist of it. This is probably, I think, my 5th or 6th time to talk about this project. We're right at the finish line, and I'm glad that folks are gaining interest and are passionate about their community. And, we are an open book. We're happy to have conversations with folks. I had a couple conversations with folks since the last planning commission meeting, and I suspect that we will have more. So if there's, but if you, again, this site is this planned unit development site plan has been publicly available for many months now. We have not substantially altered it since we submitted it towards the beginning of last fall.
Commissioners,
any
do
que- are
you
there any
have any
questions?
questions? Yeah.
So as they create these with the manufactured components, the quality, are we talking 2x4 construction, those sort of things? We're not talking about bringing in a trailer, correct?
No, this is actually better than that. The exterior walls will be 2x6.
Great. So just kind of going back, this was a previous hospital president and a previous superintendent ago. I remember Tim Jajaki calling me up and said, "Hey, do you want this piece of property?" And I was kind of thinking, sure, we could build a soccer stadium there or something along those lines. But really, the conversation was, how can we get housing across the street to help bring kids into the city and families into the city, but also more importantly, and I'll let Nate speak if he has any corrections during his time, but the important piece of hiring new staff and not having a spot for them to live in the city of Adrian or within the school district. So then they pick Saline, and then the winters come and they don't want to make that drive. And then they make that transition to, well, Saline has an opening, and they make that career jump there. I think this is a great opportunity for entry level teachers, police officers, firefighters to come and live in our community and be anchored here. So thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Hello, Scott Gordon Gauss. We've talked several times. I've looked at your Black Apple pocket community down in Bentonville, Arkansas. Are these
Yes, sir.
are these units anything similar to that, what you built in that community?
So to be clear, that was a project that we benchmarked this off of. I am building in Bentonville. I'm actually 45 minutes north of there right now, which is why I'm zooming in, because I'm taking care of some of my projects there. But that project was a single family for sale project. And those homes were $500 to $700 a square foot on the exit. So the concept was very much incorporated into this, but we are not a 400, 500, 700 square foot market yet. And so we are just speccing it in a way that we have the aesthetics and the layout and like the essence of that project, but we've just designed it to fit the Adrian market, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yep.
Scott, this is Mary Roberts, one of the city commissioners. It has been a concern for traffic on that street in that area for many, many years. Even when Bixby was there, our own son was in a traffic accident at that corner. And as someone who walks a lot, pedestrian crossings will be something that we as a city will need to look into, stop signs, those kinds of things. So I want the public to hear that those are concerns of ours too. I live around the corner from this site. I live like directly south of the high school and walk there all the time. Not as much since my tank passed away, but quite often still. So has there been anything addressed with the streets and the crossings within the Planning Commission that you can share with us today?
We've made some concessions. There is if you look at my cursor, hopefully that's still up there. This parking lot here that's at the southeastern corner, at the corner of Kamoli and Riverside Avenue, we had to remove one of the inlets into that lot, and then we had to create a cross connection, and that was to take some pressure off that intersection there and make that better for folks. Because this hospital was, 225 plus or minus 1,000 square feet, you had, many, many people working there, many, many people coming there in and out all day. And, we are actually lowering all the uses from an infrastructure standpoint with respect to this design. So if you look at the water impact, there were, that we know of, 2 6-inch lines and 1 10-inch line. It appears there's another 6-inch line. That's a story for another time. But we only need 1 8-inch line. So we're going to reduce, in this plan, we're reducing the 10-inch line to an 8-inch line, and we will not be using either of the 2 6-inch lines, right? Same thing with the existing storm. We're actually reducing the amount of water coming into the system because we reduced this site by over an acre and a half of impervious surface area. So we are reducing the amount of stress on the existing infrastructure. So we will be reducing the impact, and that goes for the traffic as well. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how we've all approached this project. This is actually lowering the impact to the community from an infrastructural standpoint.
It does, Scott. My question was, you guys have thought about this. You've
Yes.
been meeting for months. I know I heard about it last summer. So you've been meeting with our city planning division and in public at the Planning Commission meetings and have been discussing all of these things. And you have made changes and have listened to some concerns. And we as city commissioners will continue to address some of those concerns, namely, the pedestrian crossings in that area. That's going to be up to us to make those decisions and make those changes in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Scott, it's kind of hard to see on here, so I just want to make sure that that I do understand looking at it. Is there one entrance off Riverside and one entrance off Kamoli Lane and then one towards the back? I'm trying to figure out.
We're not going to be, the egresses, the ingress egresses are off Kamoli and the egress ingresses are off Riverside. We're not going to be cross connecting through the back, other than we've talked about having a gate that the fire department would have a key to so that they could pull through.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions, Scott, but I really thank you for giving up time. I knew you were going to be on the road, and this is very appreciated. I know that a lot of people wanted to know more about this, and we just wanted to hear about this before it comes to us, asking us for approval. So we wanted to make sure this was out for the public and for ourselves as well. So we greatly appreciate you coming and sharing.
It's our pleasure. And again, we're happy to have conversations with folks, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Scott.
All right.
All right, moving on. We are going to have our presentation from Superintendent Nate Parker of Adrian Public Schools.
Thank you, and thank you for having us here tonight. I do want to acknowledge the work of the first responders, Chief Massengill, Chief Emmerich, or City Administrator Emmerich. Thank you all for your work. That must have been quite a fortnight. So thank you for all you do, and sounds like some great work was done there to make it from being worse than much worse. Also, to follow up on what Commissioner Benke said, the potential of that housing unit to be entry-level place for teachers and other people moving to the community. We do see that as a huge benefit. And I would also like to take a minute and just thank the commission for this. Has been a long process, I know, since the hospital moved out, and the commitment from the commission and the city to make sure that whatever happened, that hospital was going to come down and not become more blight. And as a neighbor, I can't tell you how much we appreciate that, because I know it hasn't been easy, but I've been watching out my window over the past several months, and it's been a cool process to see, very efficient and effective. So thank you for your commitment to making sure whatever happened with that property, but that the hospital would be taken care of. All right, we are here tonight. And again, your time is valuable, and you've got a lot on the agenda tonight, so we're going to do our best to thread the needle to give you enough information to know what we're requesting, but at the same time, not taking up too much time. So if you could go to the next slide, please. We are exploring a community recreational facility, and our objectives here at the meeting tonight, we want to tell you why that is. We want to tell you how it will benefit the community and what the facility will have. We want to talk about the details of the potential bond that the school may propose to put on the ballot in November if we get the right feedback. We want to talk about the pro forma for covering the operational costs that this facility will have, and ultimately ask the commission to consider increasing the city's contribution to the current recreation partnership. Many years ago, a partnership between the city and the school to get youth rec back in the city. The city contributes already to our program, and we'll talk about that in a little. However, you're going to see a slide here that will show how successful that has been. And as a school district, it's been critical for our students. It's been critical for our athletic programs, and for our community as well. And it couldn't have happened without your guys' help in that partnership. So thank you for that. And we want to gather some feedback and input from you, any questions that we can answer and come back with. Could you go to the next slide, please, Matt? All right, we're going to start out. This is a video of another facility in another community. This will not be ours, but it gives a good idea of what something like this could look like. It's all the wrong color too, but. again, this is just one example in another community and many communities have facilities like this. And as we were looking through in a facilities assessment and what the next steps for us were facilities wise, we started asking, why not? Why not Adrian? A lot of communities have these. Why couldn't Adrian do this? And I'm going to have our Director of Recreation, Toby Ernst, is going to come up and talk a little bit from the community side, the community benefits, and then Athletic Director Chad O'Brien is going to talk about from the school end. But I think that's important. That's an important distinction. You know, we are not looking at this as just a school facility. We're looking at this as a community facility. Obviously, we have needs where this space would be very beneficial for us, but the community also has needs for some recreational space, and we're committed to that this is going to be a space not just for the school, but for the community as well. Toby?
Yes, thank you for having us. Obviously, like Mr. Parker said, our main concern and our main objective is how can we make this a community project? Looking at the first one, you're talking health and wellness as far as our community goes. Just looking at some numbers and rankings as far as the adults in Lenawee County, some numbers to kind of give you guys as far as the typical BMI obesity rate. Adrian falls as number 2 out of the 7 counties in Lenawee County as far as the highest obesity rate at 43.3%, with one other one at 44.2%. So again, that was one of our big objectives to kind of lead this, is how can we make our community a healthier community, not only for our students, but for the community members as well. The project will consist of some sort of walking track that we're exploring. You saw in that project alone, it was a elevated track. More than likely, that's one of the concepts that we can see later. There's a elevated track option. There's also a option that has it at the lower level, first floor as well. So again, that gives our community, as far as the winter months when there is nothing kind of like that around and we have a lot of community members that like to walk, this would give them an option to get indoors now that they don't have that option at the old mall where a lot of people used to go. Excuse me. Again, looking at the elderly as well, the Silver Sneakers group, the Silver and Fit group, this would give them that opportunity to continue those programs, as well as get some funding back for those programs as a federal program that those are, and kind of, again, tie that community aspect into it as we go further along with this. The options that could evolve from this, we're talking possibly 2 to 3 hard surface courts that would have a multi-surface type flooring, not a wood flooring. So the availability to have basketball courts, pickleball courts, tennis courts, again, without having that option, that's another big push for us for the tennis side, pickleball side as an indoor facility. Currently, if you know anything about those sports, you can fit a tennis court inside 1 basketball court, but you can also get 3 pickleball courts per 1 basketball court. So essentially up to 9 pickleball courts if you go 3 courts, 6 if you go 2 basketball courts with that. As far as the recreational opportunities and kind of what I guess everybody wants to hear about this is, how does this benefit me? How does this benefit our community? Recreational numbers, like Nate said, that we started this with the partnership with the city as a Adrian Public Schools community recreation program to help get those programs back into our community. And if you would like to fast forward a couple slides, again, to throw some numbers at you. Next one. Next one. Right there. I've been here for 3 years. And when I started in 2022, the recreational programs had been started as with our project that we called the game plan. How can we build Adrian Athletics through partner recreation? Jeremiah Davies was part of that initial project, and just kind of taking that from there. In the first year, you can kind of see the numbers. The blue is 2022, 23. The red is 23, 24, and obviously the gold is this year. Our numbers have increased each year and each season that we've had our recreational participation numbers, kind of to the tune of 466 for the summer. That's not on there, but a total of 346 participants that went from the 22 to the 23 school year. And then we obviously haven't got the full seasons in for the 24-25 numbers, but as projections can be seen from there, those numbers will also increase. Now, how does that help in this project? How does that help our community? You can go back to that first slide. Is again, we're seeing more participation in those things, as well as how is that going to grow our community? Well, younger kids being involved and getting more adults involved as well will give us that opportunity to continue with what we're doing and hopefully increase those numbers as we go. Now, the benefits of what we can do with this facility, obviously we run a few leagues, which you'll see in a slide later on, some of the numbers from that. But we currently run a few leagues, but this will give us the option to have more recreational events, the opportunity to actually host some travel events, which currently our kids have to go outside of Adrian for the majority of those tournaments. That will keep some of those, and as well as bring in other communities and other members into our community, which is obviously spending dollars in our facilities, restaurants, hotels, all that kind of stuff, as we kind of call that placemaking in our community. And the opportunity of running 7-on-7 tournaments for football, youth soccer, volleyball tournaments, all that kind of stuff that you guys see at kind of like the Legacy Centers is a big one in Brighton. They run a bunch of stuff at some of the local colleges as far as that kind of goes. Event rentals would obviously we run a community-wide craft show that was ran inside the high school. This would give that a one-stop shop area where everything is kind of all encompassed in one area versus having to go down 4 or 5 different hallways to see what people have, and kind of drawing away from that community project that we were looking for. As far as expos, give us rain sites for other events that definitely could use a rain site for. Economic impact, obviously I explained that. Having visitors coming into our community, spending money here in our community, helping benefit the growth of our community. And then obviously, I guess the placemaking that I talked about is making it a desirable place for Adrian and for visitors and new families to come and obviously hopefully increase the population of Adrian as we go. So kind of our question is, and you'll kind of hear this as we go, is why not Adrian? Why not us? Why can't we do this and help build our community and our youth and our population? So, thank you.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for giving us some time tonight. So just continuing on with what Toby talked about. So from the school benefit, if you look, there's all things, I'm not going to read them all to you, but the reality is we're outgrowing what we have currently, right? So as our numbers continue to grow on our athletic teams, as our programs continue to grow, right? From when I got here, we had 1 level of football, and now we have 3. So all of a sudden that does put a strain on your practice space, right? So it gives us this opportunity right there, where it's fewer late practices for kids. Right now, our lower level boys basketball goes generally at 7 o'clock, and usually it's 7 to 8:30 or 7 to 9, whereas hopefully that can get them out of there a little bit earlier, right? The city was great this year. The rec department, Mr. Davies, gave us the Piotr Center for our cheer team to practice at, which was a huge convenience for us. But it does create its own transportation issues, right? Of getting the girls over there, getting the mats set, because you got to break them down every night, right? The dance team's continuing to grow. They performed at a couple of our games this year. This will give them a space. Right now in the winter, when Miss Smith runs her dance class, they go in the B gym, but that's also set up for gymnastics. So the spring floor is not real conducive to dance class for them. So that would give us that opportunity, right? The marching band stayed home last year for band camp.
and their practices. And we have the space out there because they did it later at night. The problem is obviously the heat. And then on top of that is the setup and tear down every day. Whereas if, band camp was during the same week, which is the down week for fall sports, they could leave stuff set up in that facility. So that would make a huge difference for the performing arts also. Toby kind of talked about on-site practice tennis courts. That would help our tennis teams, right? We got 38 girls on the girls tennis team right now. So that'd be huge for them when the weather's bad. Because right now we got to try to find a space, and the A gym is about the only space that could house them all, right? Off-season workouts for all sports, it just gives you an indoor facility for that. The weather's been good in the spring so far, but we all know how that goes, right? So that would give them the opportunity to continue because that does cause problems, right? If they go into the B gym at Springbrook to hit in the cages, one of those teams is going to get stuck there extremely late at night. That we'd like to be able to avoid. Fitness and conditioning space for all of our athletes and really all of our students in general, right? In the PE classes, depending on what they have going on, they could use certain amounts of space in there. Youth recreation, Toby already talked about. One big thing that I think is important to keep in mind is the year-round training. So a lot of people play travel sports, and we actually just had a huge conversation about this at the Athletic Directors Conference. The thing travel sports has is they have it backwards, is they practice 2 days a week and then they play 5 games. Whereas we really should be practicing 5 times and playing 2 games because that's where your development is. So our kids that are, don't have the ability to afford travel teams, they don't have the ability to go to these, they're missing out on development opportunities. Whereas if we did everything here, you have a year-round training for them. That is not only affordable, but they're with their teammates, they're wearing the Adrian A, and they're just going to continue to grow as they develop, right? Spring sports, foul space, we just talked about that weather. Our robotics team is growing. This is a space that they could use that they've been looking for, right? It's hard to get them, especially in the gym, because basketball can only be in the gym, right? Robotics, like, hey, we could maybe put you in the cafeteria, but it's not a lot of space for them. So this would give them that opportunity. And then our unified team just went on Saturday up to Little Caesars Arena to play basketball against Warren Woods Tower. It was great. I think that's a huge growth area for us. And it's definitely something that we're looking about expanding, right? We're talking about doing soccer this spring and things like that. So as our sports continue to expand, I think, or as our teams continue to expand and all of our extracurriculars, this space would definitely give us, somewhere to be able to do that. And that's really kind of how it's evolved, right? We've been to a few places, and it originally started out when I took the job. It was this drawing of basically the hitting barn that Adrian College has, which was all turf. But that doesn't meet our student need, and probably more importantly, it doesn't meet our community need, which is why we've decided to go more hard court, split surface type format. So questions on any of that before I turn it back over? Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yep.
could you explain what unified sports is? Not everyone in the room knows what that means.
Yes. So Special Olympics has been rebranded. So it's students with disabilities, any type of disability. And what they've really done, the reason it's so great is they partner them with a gen ed student. So in the basketball game, we'll play 3 students with a disability and 2 gen ed students as helpers. They're not allowed to shoot. They're not allowed to do certain things, but it just allows those games to flow and actually be really meaningful. I mean, those kids will remember that experience of going to Little Caesars for forever. Thank you.
I threw this slide up here just as we've been talking about in planning, where did the idea come from? Where is there support for this out there? We did a complete facilities assessment last year, and part of that was a community survey, a survey to our parents, and 2 questions, three questions basically addressed this. First one was in terms of a space and functionality. What areas of the school do you feel that are most lacking? 45% of the people said that they had no concerns, which was very nice to see. The next most frequent response was recreational spaces. The next question, if the district could add 1 major facility in the next 5 to 10 years, what would you like to see? 41% said STEM labs. Due to a very generous gift from the Mooley family, we are adding STEM labs in all of our elementary schools. Our high school and middle school have awesome STEM spaces already. We're going to be able to add those to the elementaries already. The next most frequent response response at 28% was additional athletic and recreational spaces. And then there were some open-ended questions. They're on the left-hand side there in the themes, and the most common responses we saw there. Number one, playgrounds, which we've invested some funds into the playgrounds to try to bring them up to speed. All of our playgrounds have got a little bit of touch at each building. And number two, as you can see, athletic recreational spaces or facilities. So we did see a need, a want, an ask for this from that survey. Just very quickly, our core priorities, Chad and Toby both referenced the game plan. We also have the arts playbill. We have a facilities plan, and we have the lesson plan, which is a strategic plan for athletics. And this just basically shows this facility aligns with a lot of our core priorities in those plans. Matt? All right. Thank you. This is a recap just again to show where our sports have gone. And again, it's not just about winning. It's not just about having athletics, but we know kids that are involved in athletics or extracurriculars, whatever those are, they're better students. They're more engaged in the school process. They feel better about themselves. They're getting health and wellness, and they're around caring adults who provide them some structure. And there's a lot of lessons that go beyond just what's in the classroom. And what we see, and research shows this, kids that are involved, whether it's athletics or the arts or extracurriculars, they're going to be better students. They're going to be more successful after school. And this is a point of pride, I think. Our last year, our 2024 recap, you can read the numbers up there, what we're seeing with success on the field. But what we're even more proud about is that we truly have student athletes. Last year, the Daily Telegram, they do their County Athlete of the Year winners. 7 of those were Maples. And what we're the most proud of is 5 of those 7 had a 4.0 or better. The other ones had like a 3.6 and a 3.7. So it's important to us that we have student athletes. Just this fall and winter seasons, which just concluded in 24 and 25, again, you can see the success there of our teams, but also 8 academic all-state teams, 31 academic all-state athletes. That's the part that's important to us, and we know increased participation in athletics in the arts results in that. And again, that's a thank you to the city, because a big part of that athletic game plan was getting youth recreation back up and going in the city, and the partnership of the city allowed us to do that. Next slide, please. I just threw the slide up here because it is important to understand that we put this focus on the arts as well. We have a fine arts coordinator, Michelle Force, and what she is doing with after-school programming is incredible. Again, more opportunities for kids to learn outside the classroom and more opportunities for kids to be connected to caring adults. So the process we've engaged in as we've explored this is we've had several community forums. Obviously, I've presented it to our school, our Board of Education. Multiple community feedback forums. We also had neighborhood meetings with the residents adjacent to where we're looking at putting this on the campus, and you'll see those locations in a minute, but we mailed specific letters to those residents inviting them to come to their own meeting where they could talk to us about what concerns they might have or what they would like to see if it does end up in that space. So we had 4 attend each meeting. And had some really good feedback from them, so I appreciate them coming. Epic MRA has done a survey for us back when we did the last school bond that passed, the 2016 bond. They came in, and the feedback they gave us was very crucial about what the community felt. I just got the results of that last week, so we'll dig into that a little bit. If we get community support, obviously we need to finalize the scope and details. Board approval will need to happen. Ultimately, where I'm going with this is if we find that support is there and the decision is made, this would look like a November ballot initiative. So what's it going to look like? Where's it going to be? This is Adrian High School. If you can see, so up to the top of the screen, that's the north lawn. The old Bixby building would have been across the street from there. So this facility right now is in what is now the athletic parking lot. Obviously, we'd have to replace some of that parking in the back of the school, which is now a gravel tennis court, gravel parking, and then the gravel lot next to where the area that is the pool right now. This is a large facility. It is essentially a football field covered. So it is about 100,000 square feet. This is theoretically what it could look like. As you see, it's up there in the top. I just threw this in to show because we always get questions about where's everyone going to park. We are replacing the parking we're losing, and we're gaining some as well by doing that in there along the pool. What would it look like on the inside? This is a very rough drawing, but we'd look at 50 to 60 yards of turf, which could be used for a lot of different things. Those are 3 basketball, volleyball, tennis, pickleball courts in the middle. There's a walking track around it. And then essentially what would be in that lobby space, we'd have a secure entrance with room there potentially for a vendor, concession stand, those types of things, locker rooms. Again, this is the part where I see the city having real use of this. We're looking at a 3,000 square foot fitness center, ellipticals and cardio and those types of things, maybe some weight machines. Obviously, there's some storage in there. The main thing, though, is that there is a walking track around this, and that's the feedback we've gotten from the community. A lot of people really excited about having that walking space in the community at a place that people can use. If you want to go to the next one, here are 3 possible what the interior could look like. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have a turf field. The track is just around the turf. The other one is pretty much the same thing, except for it's a little bit bigger track, which then goes around the tennis courts, or I'm sorry, the basketball courts as well, the hard courts, let's call them. And then we have this option on the side. That track is actually elevated, where you've got the courts down on the floor and then the track's elevated. So essentially, we'll get feedback from people on this, and cost will drive some of this. Obviously, that elevated track is going to add some cost, so that will drive some of that decision making. These are some pictures from other facilities, so you can get an idea of what it would look like. This facility on the top right, there's 2 courts. We really plan to put 3 courts in, so we've got as much space as possible. The walking track, the tennis, pickleball courts, the turf field. Again, just some pictures and some photos from some other facilities. This is an important piece. As we've engaged the community on this, we've heard a lot of, we've heard of this community that said that, and then when it all shook out, the community had 2 hours to use it or something, or it started out that way, and then it wasn't. We've been committed through this. Again, how can we make this available to the community and still have it meet the needs of the school? So again, this is a proposed hourly schedule that we could have, but as you can see, what I would say is this might be the minimum of what it would be open. So for example, Monday through Friday, our kids are in classrooms from 8 to 3 or whatever that might be. That's a great time for the community to be able to use it. So, we threw up here, Friday, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. could be for the community use. We would need it from 3 to 6, 3 to 7 for our athletics. And again, certain times of the year, we don't need it as much as others. And then it could open again for the community from 7 to 9. Early bird opportunities. We know there's a lot of facilities where if you qualify, get the right pass, you can fob in to use the track or the fitness center before you go to work. We're not opposed to considering that. Saturdays, 2 to 9, Sundays, 12 to 6. In parentheses where I put it, could be more dependent on scheduled events. We will have to run some tournaments in here to create some revenue to cover some operational costs. Just because there's a tournament there doesn't mean the fitness center wouldn't be open or the track wouldn't be open. But what we try to do here is say, okay, worst case scenario, if it's not available on those Saturdays in the morning so that we can run our rec stuff, so that we can run those tournaments, we're going to commit that, from 2 to 9, we're going to make things available for the community. Could it be open earlier than that? Absolutely, but we're trying to get to that minimum so people really understand what that minimum would be. And the minimum is a lot more than I think you see in other communities with these facilities. Weekend use, so as we build the model, how do we generate revenue to cover the operating costs? We know we've got to run some tournaments on the weekends. We don't want to get into a situation where we have to spend every single weekend running tournaments to pay for it, because that's less time that the community can be if every single weekend is tied up with some of that stuff. So, 40 Saturdays, 20 Sundays, we're a long ways away from actually getting there, but this is what we build our pro forma on to cover some of this cost. And that's important, I think, to understand about this facility too, is as we've done this, we've had people say, well, why don't you just talk to this company, will do this for you. They'll come in and build a facility and do it for you. The Legacy Center, when you look at those facilities, they're built to make money, to make a profit, to generate enough revenue that that company can come in and do that. If we did that, it's no longer really a community facility because they're using it all the time to generate that profit. So it's important to us. Again, we have some costs we're going to have to cover. We have not built our pro forma on making a huge profit. We've built it on covering some costs. And I think that's important as we move forward to understand that there's a lot of things we could do, but that reduces the amount of time the community can use it. We have to do some things to make sure that we're covering our cost, obviously, but you know, there's a separation there about how you look at these facilities. If you had a company come in and do it, they got to make revenue. They got to make a profit. We're doing it hopefully through a partnership where we're doing this to cover our costs and to have a great space and a great facility for the community. Quickly, what this would look like on the bond side, construction would be 17 to 27 million. We're looking at $300,000 to $350,000 annually for an operational cost. We would ask a millage of 0.75 mils over 20 years, which would raise $27 million. And at the bottom, you can see the math at a home valued at $200,000. In a year, it would cost $75, $625 per month or 21 cents a day. So a 0.75 millage. All right, I'm going to have Dan Pena, our business manager, is going to come up and speak a little bit about the details of the finances and the economics and what we're looking at with fee structure.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks again, Mayor Heath, and thanks again to the commissioners for some time this evening. So as we're looking through this, so we want to, of course, answer the question, so what's our fee structure look like? And to be very clear right off the bat, we want to be mindful of, we are going to be most likely asking the community to pass a bond to make this available to happen. And so for those folks that are in the community to be able to have access to this at a great structure, because they're already incurring some tax fees there. So very attractive on the in-district annual proposed fee structure. Again, this is annual that you're seeing there. So a single membership would be $50 per year, two-person $75 per year. Senior and youth, $75 per year. Family, $150 per year. That's annual, not monthly, annually. And then employees of APS, City of Adrian, things like that, $50 per year. So we tried to make this very attractive, roughly 10 to 15% of market. You'll see some structures or fee structures up there of others. We have 2 market rates up there. So you can see we're in a great place from an in-district annual fee structure. Out of district, we want to make this available to those around the community, but at a market rate value, a normal market rate. So proposed is single of $516 a year, two-person $720, senior youth $720, and then family $900. That's annually. So when you factor that down by month, we're right in line market rate. And those are for those folks that are around the community, but they're out of district. They're not incurring the tax fees that we'd be asking. So do want to make sure and point out our in-district municipalities. So there are residents of all those communities listed below that are considered APS residents. So they would have access to this center at an in-district annual rate. So I want to make sure and call that out. Next slide, please. Okay, so revenue opportunities that we have here, we have 2 up there in those boxes. Those are real revenue generating events we've already held. Rec All-Star Volleyball, and then also Rec My Way Wrestling. It's cut off a little bit, but that Rec All-Star Volleyball brought in $20,000. The My Way Wrestling, $18,000, just as an example. So listing those revenue opportunities that we see there, you have $240,000 of revenue up there. Down below, those are other opportunities we have not yet factored in. So winter pickleball, hitting cage rentals, other group rentals, like the Dirtbags Lookouts, other youth sports, and then vendors. So there's a lot of opportunity we think we still have to build revenue here. And then next slide. So now the expense side. And so as you see there, I just listed $240,000 of revenue that we see. This right here lists $334,000 just under that of expenses. So staff costs, $160,000, and that's based on the hours that Nate put up there earlier when we plan to have the facility open. And then, of course, as we move those hours, that will change, or depending on if we have fobs and things like that, that will keep that down. The rest of those items are born of conversations with others around the state that have facilities like this. Okay, and what are those costs? What do we need to look at for utilities, facility maintenance, insurance, additional custodial costs, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to be very mindful here to be conservative on our revenue estimate, but also very truthful as we can find, as we can be on the expense side. But we do feel on the in-district memberships that I mentioned earlier, we have $10,000 built into this right now, which is 67 family memberships. We feel that the community is going to have a lot of excitement and that we can greatly grow that number. But again, trying to be very mindful to be conservative on the revenue so we cover our costs as we go through this. So while I'm here, any questions?
You see, so you list a number of municipalities, but I only see an ask from the city of Adrian. So are the other communities that are listed here going to be approached for contributions as well?
We have discussed that, and that is something that's still yet to be determined as far as how the model would work, but that is in the conversation right now.
So if the city of Adrian were to contribute the $120,000 that's proposed, if the, we represent, all the residents of the city of Adrian, not just the APS, residents of the city of Adrian, will only APS residents, that live in the city of Adrian get that discounted rate, or will that be
Anybody that is covering the tax portion of, if you're paying that tax, you're going to be able to get that in-district rate.
Good. There was previously with the previous bond, it was up to 7 mils.
Yes.
Where are we at now?
5.1.
Okay, so this would, if this were to pass, it would still be a full mil lower than it ever was during my tax and spend time.
That is correct. As we were going through, we knew it, we would still have some buffer in there, and we've gone down. My first year we were 5.4, now we're 5.1. So we try to be mindful of that, not trying to leverage ourselves or the community as we go through this proposal.
Dane Nelson was a huge force when it came to, the feedback we received was, there's public funds and there's private funds in terms of fundraising and offsetting the burden on the taxpayers. Is there a fundraising drive to reduce the burden on taxpayers with this project?
Do you want to speak to that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. That has been the conversation we've had through the community forums and other meetings with individuals. That has come up, what could we raise to offset the burden for taxpayers? I think we don't have the answer of how much we could raise, but again, as we look at $17 to $27 million facility, in the community, what is out there that could be raised to offset for taxpayers? That's some of the calculus we still have to do, I think. And, could it cover the inside, the interior, the lobby and that kind of stuff? Is there some naming rights even? That's been brought up several times. And that's something that we want to explore if it's a realistic feasibility to cut into the cost of, if you raise 2 million and if it's a $25 million project and you can raise 2 million, that's 2 million less the taxpayers have to pay for as well. Could we get there? That's a great question.
The having been a principal of a high school that had a community center, pools, and a walking track, and our promise to the community, I hear the promise to the community, but then I also hear we're going to do band camp inside. So I just know some of these grays are associated with those decisions when we closed for a week for band camp to be inside, and then that meant you couldn't walk. So I would just, make the elevated track is a really great idea because you can still have events taking place, pickleball, not getting hit by items, as those daily walkers who let you know every time the facility is closed would be smart.
Right. And we've seen some of these where they're set up, there's a whole netting system. So people walking the track don't have to worry about getting hit by a ball or something because there's a net that protects that, and probably the band camp scenario as well. You might listen to the band as you're walking to the track, but absolutely, those are things to take into account. And I just want to mention, you bring up a good point too about our Adrian Public School District taxpayers are in all of those municipalities. Not every municipality. If you live in that municipality, you may not be an Adrian Public Schools taxpayer. You've seen the map. I mean, it's crazy, but we just wanted to be clear that when we go for a bond, it's not just the city of Adrian. It's much larger than that. And if you're a taxpayer, you would have that reduced rate. And the idea of going to the other municipalities is something that we would like to do, and we would have to figure out a structure of, just like sometimes with, how many residents are there, what's the percentage and all that kind of stuff. So, yes, if they're going to be having the advantage of it, we'd like to give them the chance to contribute as well.
And last question, did I hear you correctly in that with this proposal, you're saying that City of Adrian employees, so if you don't live in the City of Adrian, but you work for the City of Adrian, this then becomes a benefit for us as an employer to our employees for the discounted rates of the facility?
That is the plan, yep. APS teachers, City of Adrian, DPW, Adrian Fire Department, APD, all of those. If this is a partnership, we would like to see them pay those same reduced rates.
I know the answer because you and I met about this before the new year. But I would like for the public to know, but just because we've heard a lot about the dome being so tall. So how tall is this in comparison to the dome, or how tall do you propose this to be?
Great question. And this is not a dome. This is a steel structure building, and it is 50 feet. The dome is 90 feet. This is 50 feet, which is similar, a little bit higher than our current gym that stands on that property right now.
Commissioner Goss, would that require a variance from Planning Commission and for the City Commission at that height?
I don't believe so. I would have to check. I don't know off the top of my head, but I don't
Sorry
believe
to
it
put
would-
you on the spot.
I don't believe that it would require a variance.
So, Commissioner Benke let us know the ask today, our current partnership is, we have about $120,000 into the youth rec program with mainly salaries and staffing. The City of Adrian has given us $30,000. I think the ask today is, if the bond is successful, and obviously we got a lot of work to do on that as well. And again, this is an ask, is the city able to increase their contribution to match that 120,000 or something less, something more, but that would help us cover those operational costs. That is the ask. And summing up with, what is the benefits for the City of Adrian? Additional space for adult recreation opportunities. I know talking with Jeremiah Davies, that's one hindrance right now to some more adult rec, is there's just not space. We talked about the discounted rate for city employees, APD, firefighters, DPW, any city employee. We know there's an economic opportunity here. This would bring people into the community. It would bring people into the community. Placemaking, another significant project that benefits Adrian residents. And I think this is what, at this meeting tonight, we've heard a lot of the great things that are going on in the City of Adrian. The tunnel, we have heard about the town square, the Winter Street project. And you also look at what eBite is doing over on the east side, the Align Center coming in. There are really some awesome things happening in the City of Adrian right now. And this would be one more thing that would bring people into the City of Adrian. It would make it a great place to live. That placemaking idea of how do we get people to want to live in the City of Adrian. We all know, because we're here, how many great things are in the City of Adrian. All those other things I've just mentioned, the things we've mentioned tonight, this facility, in addition to that, just gives us one more thing that, why not Adrian? Why wouldn't you want to live in Adrian? In that Positive City School partnership, the Why Not Adrian idea, we know that communities that people want to live in, you see positive partnerships between the city and the school, and I think we've had that. We've shown some stats to demonstrate what that rec partnership has done tonight. I also look at, we talk about, as I talk to people and parents, and oh man, all the kids do anymore is play video games, and they're on their video games. We need them to be active. We know that's entirely true. We all get into that. I'm getting in my grumpy old man phase too, where I think that's the case, and probably people have been saying that for years. However, this gives us a place to get more kids active, more kids involved, the community active involved. We know eBite is here because of the health risks to the City of Adrian, because when ProMedica ran their stats, 49221 was the zip code that showed up with the highest health risks. This facility gets us to active kids in an active community. Healthy kids in a healthy community and thriving kids in a thriving community. It gives us all of those things. And I think I'll just wrap it up. I've now, worked for the schools for 16 years. I've been in Adrian for 16 years. And this is a great community. And the stuff going on right now is awesome. But I still hear occasionally, well, this is Adrian. We can't do that because this is Adrian. Or we don't have one of those because this is Adrian. I want to change that to this is Adrian, and we can do these things, and we can have these things. And that's part of changing that mindset with our kids as well. We look at that athletic game plan. The youth rec was a big part of that. But another big core priority of that was that Maple mindset of getting our kids to believe that they can and they will if they put the work in. And I think that's just with this community as well. We're working hard. You guys are working hard. There's awesome things going on. I don't want to hear, well, this is Adrian anymore. I want to hear this is Adrian, and we can do big things like this. So thank you for your time. Sorry to take so much of it, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very appreciative.
All right. Well, our work study session has gone long tonight, so we are going to move on to approval of the agenda. May I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
I'm going to give it to Commissioner Miller for the, okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Miller with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to our consent agenda. May I get a motion to approve our consent agenda, or sorry, may I get a motion to adopt our consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gauss. Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have no resolutions tonight, friends, so we are moving on to public comment. At this time, it is general public comment. Just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your name and place of residence. We will begin inside the city chambers first, and when we have exhausted all comment within the chambers, we will then open it up to the Zoom participants.
As I said previously.
Can you say your name and,
Can you hear me?
yes, say your name,
Okay.
please, and
My name is Dorothy Schmidt. And I always told the kids that the SCH stands for school, which was the first thing that the city did when it became a city. And the second thing is mitt, a baseball that they could throw in the recreation department and grow up to be strong, physically active kids. Okay, that's where I'm coming from. Where the state is coming from, it started with the thumb. It's COVID. And COVID took every right that I had and denied that I had any rights in the city of Adrian. And so they did first the thumb, and they've gone to Lake Huron. Now there's a second Adrian city at the top of the first finger. Second finger is Marquette at the top of the state. Fourth one, this doesn't always work anymore, okay, because they move from left to right and the baby's in trouble. Any baby is in trouble because they took down the 2 hospitals that service the city and it replaced them with people from the military who told me right out, I'm sorry, I can't help you in this city. That's not what I'm here for. And so I have to drop $300 in the bank on my way out. One is Citizens Gas. I have an underground connection from the state that I've had for 200 years. And the second one is to Comcast, another $150 to pay for a picture of the Pope today.
Your time is up. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. Your time
And
is up.
a purple Lenten service.
Thank you. Your time is up,
It is
Dorothy, okay?
no way to run a city to expect
Dorothy,
me.
your time is up right now, okay? Thank you. You can talk to us after if you would like, though, okay?
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you, Dorothy.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm sorry you don't want to hear me.
That's not true, Dorothy.
Of all the,
Can you state your name?
Oh,
Sorry, and where.
Gail
please-
Dunaway, City of Adrian, Dorothy's neighbor. Of all the turmoil going on Saturday, our fire department headed off another about 8:30 Saturday morning. Fire truck was on the 500 block of our street, and I thought, what now? Well, there was a tree, city tree, leaning at about between a 30 and a 45-degree angle. It was leaning on the wires. So taped it off. Consumers was there like that, got it chopped down. At 8 o'clock at night, somebody came with a chipper. So most of the stuff has been cleaned up. So we've headed off some kind of, in spite of all what was going on downtown. And thank you very much for the Salvation Army, our fire department, and our police department. I have concerns about the PUD development. I come from, well, I volunteered for years in Chicago at the Runaway National Switch Line, and they were partnered with Metro Help. Kids find trouble very easily. So my concern is with a dense development right across from a high school. I hope it's managed well and people are screened that whoever signs the lease is actually who's living there. I can see problems. And we definitely need that rec center because I used to live, I'm from Detroit, not a very healthy city at one time. Moved here from Chicago. We walked everywhere. We walked to the buses. We walked to the train stations. We just plain walked. I've never seen so many fat people since I moved to Adrian. And thank you all again.
Hello, my name is Leo Cavender and my son owns Diamond Jim's Pool Hall. I'd like to give a special thank you to all the firefighters that were involved in putting our fire out, and with great gratitude, I'd just like to thank the firefighters for doing an extra special job because we're very thankful that we still have a business. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Mark Bars. I live on Dean Street. I think the project of this building on the high school property, building for the community on the high school property is wrong. Because all it is charging taxes to the people, and then they're going to charge people to use it. Who's going to be in charge of it? The high school? They just got $43 million in the tax levy from the taxpayers. Some people are trying to eliminate taxes, not add new taxes. Eliminate, not add new. I think it's a total loss to this community if it goes through because we have a YMCA, we have an Adrian College, we have where they could go walk. You know Adrian College, you guys spent enough money with Adrian College to give them anything they wanted. They can go to Adrian College. I think this is wrong. And if the people voted in, they're crazier than I thought. They just like to be taxed.
Jarek Tim, Adrian resident. So I just wanted to kind of correct what was said there by the developer. Missing middle housing is specific types of housing. The rent cost, what have you, has no bearing on what is or isn't missing middle housing. The reason that I am concerned about this is not that I don't think that we should have a housing development on the Bixby lot. I'm very much in favor of that as somebody who lives literally like across the street and down a ways. But I just want to make sure that we get what this community deserves. Single family homes cost money. Higher density subsidizes single family R1 development. If we allow them to put this in, the bill is going to come 20, 30 years down the line. And the fact that we have right in the neighborhood, literally Mary's neighborhood has the same density as what they're proposing. I just want us to think, further than our noses. I think it's great to have, multifamily homes as the plan. We got to stick to the plan. I think we should go further and do mixed zoning because you have the school right there. Imagine how well a small grocery with a deli would do across the street from the school. All the seniors can leave for lunch. And right now what they do is they hop in their car, they speed through town to try to pick up, Wesco or fast food somewhere. So if we had some mixed uses right there, which we already have, there's office space, it's not residential. Just, I want to think outside the box a bit. Thanks.
Keith Miller, City of Adrian. Public utilities. I've stood here several times, corner of Chestnut and Elm. There is a water leak there. Now the city has went over there and patched a few big potholes because the water has damaged the road. Now it's just more expense for the city of Adrian. They said they can't find the leak. Well, you can't find a leak if you're not digging. Ain't nobody put a shovel to any ground. Ain't nobody took a backhoe down there. Nobody's took a jackhammer to the road, nothing. But we're sitting there throwing cold patch and potholes to cover it up, which has already been forced out of it by now. I'm not in favor of the sports arena. I mean, it's give to the city of Adrian, or to the Adrian Public Schools all the time. They wanted new air conditioning, wanted furnaces, outdoor lab, all this other stuff that we've given over the last 15 years. We're done doing that. And as far as the fires that went on over the weekend, I'm sorry for anybody and everybody that lost something there. But I think it's the city's obligation to make sure if those buildings aren't safe, that they are torn down in a timely manner before they are abandoned. And it's the city taxpayers' obligation to pay to have them torn down. I'm getting tired of that happening all the time. We pay for stuff that gets torn down that we have nothing to do with. It's because they walk away from it, they don't pay their taxes, and now we're stuck with it. If they're no good, get them torn down before summer starts. It's not that hard to figure it out. If they need to be fixed, they better be starting to put, a nail and hammer to it before the end of the month. I'm assuming they're all insured, if they were insured, and the insurance should be going, coming in place. And like I said, I feel sorry for the ones that lost property, lost, their apartments and stuff, but we can't have this burden fall on the city of Adrian. We're paying too much for other past mistakes that other city council members or administrators have made on other properties that are going to cost us millions if we can't get the grants for them. Thank you. Have a good day.
Julie Youngworth, Adrian. Thank you, commissioners. And I want to give a shout out to Dorothy. Shout out to Dorothy. Thank you so much for what you said. It's important. And the chief, what he mentioned was, I liked his line on it being a game changer, having the drone. And I think Adrian is coming into a time in 2025 where there's a lot of things that will be game changers for Adrian. Sometimes I don't think that the residents are really heard by the people that are supposed to be listening to them. Hopefully, you know, that'll change with more involvement with the citizens, which I don't think there is enough of. But I think it's great, you know, the people did show up and did speak, and it does look like you're listening. So depending upon what the outcome is, then that will prove that you're listening. Living in the neighborhood where I live, I don't think that this Bixby development is a good fit for the neighborhood. It probably would be a good fit for Adrian, but not there. And I think that a lot more needs to be studied on it. A lot more needs to be done to involve the residents, even if they don't show up. I think an outreach would be very helpful. And thank you.
Good evening, Nancy O'Connor. In today's mail, which is, I'm glad that it came in today's mail, I received this postcard that from the Adrian City Zoning Board of Appeals. They're going to hold a public hearing to consider a dimensional signage variance. And then it goes on to say the square feet per sign for 2 signs. There's 2 things wrong with this. And just so you know, just before the city hall closed, I had called Jeremiah Kleiman, which I don't know how to pronounce it. I had called him and left a message. He did return my phone call. And after we spoke for a few minutes, at first he thought that this was the true address, but I was confused when I read this because there's not a South Madison Avenue in the city of Adrian. It's all Madison Street. And there is no 1234 South Madison Avenue or a 1234 South Madison Street. I'm bringing, you know, even though I spoke with him, this meeting is for April 1st at 6:30. He said he was going to try to get them removed from the agenda. But this is a concern because he did tell me that this was for the signs for the dome at Adrian College, that they are the ones that want these 2 signs. But you know, as I'm sitting here listening to people speak, I can't help but wonder if this may be a created address that city's gonna deal with and maybe approve for this to be 1234 South Madison Avenue for the domes, because it's not a street, but I guess it could be. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that they need to be more careful when they send these out, because I don't know if a lot of people attend the zoning board of appeals or Zoom in or whatever, but this would have been, they can't hold this meeting, I guess is my purpose to tell you this. Thank you.
Ernest, City of Adrian resident. There should be speed cams at every intersection in a city of Adrian or county, whatever. And also, there should be metal detectors throughout every Adrian private schools to be on the safe side to prevent anybody from entering with any weapons besides law enforcement. And also, there should be, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, the most important is the speed cam so that the police when they look for them, they can just mail the ticket to that person that runs the red light or that speeds past stop signs or whatever. And also, it should be at every corner, including stop signs and traffic lights. And they should build a new hospital. because that's too darn far. Because if emergency is on a way opposite side of town, they got to get there, then travel all the way back to the north side to take a person to the hospital. That person could be DOA before they get to the hospital. So they should look into a bigger field to be able to hospital locally. And also, there should also be let's see. There should be surveillance cameras at every property that's built so that it could prevent home invasions or car theft. And also, yeah, that's it.
At this time, we will open it up to the Zoom participants for public comment. Hearing no public comment. Commissioners, there are miscellaneous reports in your packet. Are there any questions or comments on those? At this time, it is now time for commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments? Just once again, from all of us, thank you again to Chief Massengill and the fire department, to DPW, to the police department, to everybody that was out there and all the various fire departments and Salvation Army and just all the community members that were bringing stuff to the Salvation Army while I was standing there to bring them for the firefighters to show their gratitude. A true testament of community was shown Saturday night, not in the way we want it during a tragedy, but it is also great to see our community come together. So thank you again, and may I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.